Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. If there are any members of the press, I guess many of you have lost your jobs or been fired since 2008, and they whittled the press down to just the people that are controlled by the powerful elitists. But welcome to America's Third Party and to our nightly show where we talk about issues that are affecting all of us and trying to get a voice for the American people back into politics. It's like pulling teeth. Getting back into politics. The American people have been nullified. We've been pushed to the sidelines, and now we're in the blogosphere talking. If the free press is alive today, it's alive right here, right now, on our show. And we can do a daily chat with everybody on a nightly basis, 6 to 9. Come into our show and watch us, and go to americasthirdparty.com to do that. In the meantime, I want to generally introduce myself to you. I'm David John Sponheim, running for president in 2016. I believe that the free press is critical to the future of our country. If we don't get the NSA out of our private lives and get accountability and oversight from the government, we're going to be living in a police state much like the state of Nazi Germany during the 1930s, where they had death camps everywhere. They were cordoning off areas. In fact, right now, there are over 800 FEMA camps in America staffed by U.S. personnel. There's a plan by the U.S. Army to create an Operation Devolution takedown of everybody's local law enforcement. Even your local sheriff will be sent to the FEMA camp. FBI will be sent to the FEMA camp under that plan. And that plan is all coming from a very, very dark and secretive organization which ultimately will destroy this world. This is the architect right here.
This is ATP, and I approve this message.
This is the architect right now of the world's disasters. This is the architect, Henry Kissinger, the person who's behind the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. He's the guy that put this whole thing in motion over 50 years ago. It's interesting to know that as Secretary of State under Henry Kissinger, this guy, Henry Kissinger, under Richard Nixon, was essentially the architect of the concept of low-intensity conflict. The idea of starting little wars all around the world to ultimately keep everybody at bay and to continue the power structure of the American government and the power of the US dollar. He is the architect of the whole concept of the hegemonic power of America. Now what he is an intermediary, a person working between channels of elitists that want to have total control over the world monetary system, and he is the person who they've used as the primary ingredient in this plan to control our foreign policy. He's the reason why we're probably going to war with Syria. They will create a false flag operation to create the climate for an attack on Syria. They've been trying to get us to attack Syria for a long time. The reason is Syria is one of the last countries that doesn't have a connection to the World Bank, that doesn't have a connection to the IMF, that seem to be insulated. Syria is one of those holdouts. So this guy, Henry Kissinger, wants to essentially push our country deeper and deeper into war. And these wars have been fought in vain. I mean, look at the Vietnam War and look at what a waste that was. 4 million Southeast Asians dead, 58,000 U.S. personnel dead. The Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, a cost of almost $2 trillion to the U.S. taxpayer, and nearly 6,000 men and women dead. And not to mention the million Iraqis and Afghans that have died as a result of our actions. And now they want to start a war in Syria. So I can tell you one thing. The rush to judgment that Barack Obama has right now is probably coming directly from his special assistant to the president, Henry Kissinger. That's right. Henry Kissinger worked under Richard Nixon, and now he's working under Barack Obama. Nixon was a Republican, Obama is a Democrat. That really reveals the hand of this New World Order plan. They're using both parties, essentially, to hijack the American consciousness into believing that we have some semblance of freedom and democracy, when in fact we don't have anything. We've got point counterpoint. We've got pro and con. We don't have a third party. This is where you come in. You, the voter, can promote a third party. You can talk about us at your family's dinner table. You can mention us to friends. You can Twitter and tweet us at third party. And you can write about us in blogs, americasthirdparty.com. So what we're asking you to do is trigger the environment for a third party by talking about it. The word of mouth is really important here. And you see, the powers that be do not have the ability to suppress word of mouth advertising or the internet. They don't have that power right now, but they are trying to get it. There's evidence that censorship is coming back. The concept is disturbing, that they're trying to put SOPA back on the table. They're trying to initiate over-regulation of the internet and prevent us from forming any kind of political activity, and ultimately suppress our rights and freedoms that were guaranteed to us in the Constitution. I'm going to play a video for you right now of a guy who claims to have had sex with Barack Obama. Now, for all of you, this may be very troubling, and many of you probably think the guy's a whack job, but I'm going to give you a little background on that guy right after I play the video for you. Let me play that video for you right now.
$250, which was provided to him by me.
Hello, this is David.
Returned a short while later with an 8-ball of cocaine, which he gave to me. I did ingest a couple of lines of cocaine, and shortly thereafter, Senator Obama produced a glass cylinder pipe and packet of crack cocaine from his pocket. Obama then smoked the crack cocaine. I performed fellatio on Senator Obama in the limousine during the time Senator Obama was smoking crack cocaine, after which I had the driver take me to my hotel, the Comfort Suites, Gurnee, Illinois.
Did you hear what he said? Now, this guy, you might think Larry Sinclair is some sort of a whack job, but that speech that he made just now was done in front of the Washington, D.C. press corps, and he rented the building for over $6,000 of his own money, or the money of his donators, to get that building, and he essentially used that time to tell people that Barack Obama was lying. That was his primary goal. It wasn't to announce to the world that he was gay. Everybody knows he's gay. Larry Sinclair is openly gay. The fact of the matter is, Larry Sinclair passed a lie detector test with 99% certainty. This lie detector test was promoted by a group called WhiteHouse.com. No longer are they in any way affiliated with the previous WhiteHouse.com, but they essentially put that together. And he passed it with 99% certainty. I'm not trying to tell you that Obama is bad, that he's gay, bad that he did crack cocaine. He openly admitted to doing crack cocaine as a college student in the book Audacity of Hope. But I'm telling you that this guy is evil. This guy lies. And he's lied incessantly to the American people. Look at the sign of the devil he's making right there. That is an Illuminati sign. That's not something you should just disregard and say, oh, that's no big deal. This guy is playing power politics, and he's covered everything up, including his relationship to Muslims. Well, our country now is seeing our foreign policy morph into something very, very disturbing. 4 nations have drifted into Islamic control under Obama's lack of oversight. He didn't respond to former President Mubarak of Egypt when he asked for help. Obama ignored his phone calls. Consequently, Egypt is right now on the verge of a civil war. And now there are people even in the Muslim Brotherhood that are saying that our CIA is operating within their organization to try to destroy them. Our country is seemingly flying by the seat of their pants, run by the CIA, and the government essentially doesn't have any clear vision for foreign policy other than to start more wars. That is essentially what's going on. The morphing of Bush into Obama has taken place seamlessly. And the Democrats and the Republicans have been the unwitting dupes in this entire disastrous interplay. We are now seeing George Bush-style policies coming out of Barack Obama. Now, if you voted for Barack Obama thinking that he would be following your mandate and the ideas and ideals of the Democratic Party, you're completely wrong. I would have been a better Democrat than Barack Obama, and I was a Democrat for 30 years. Then I had to leave the party and start my own party, America's Third Party, in 2008. I felt that the ideals and the mandates of the Democratic Party were being bastardized by a guy who lies, who just simply reads off a teleprompter to get elected. That's essentially what's going on with this presidency under Barack Obama. And it's getting even worse. I mean, this guy is supporting Islamic policies, which he's giving special favor to Islamicists in this country. Muslims have special rights. You know, the airport, TSA, the guys that frisk you at the airport, they're not allowed to ask a woman who's wearing a burqa to remove her burqa when going up to the TSA. Now, this is absurd. I mean, we should be able to at least do the same thing to anybody, no matter what. And I personally don't like the TSA. I think they should be phased out. And we should ultimately bring in the military in plain clothes and replace the TSA and probably save every airline passenger a lot of money on their plane ticket, because the military is getting paid already. Why would we pay somebody to touch you illegally? But anyway, I digress. Take a look at this right here. This is the Obama ring photo. This ring he has worn for over 30 years. This ring, upon close examination, actually has an Arabic saying on it that reads, translated, Allah is the one and only God. Now, imagine this guy who supports the Muslim faith, who believes that Allah is the one and only God, wearing this ring, even right now. It's his wedding ring. Again, he took it off and put it back on when he married Michelle Robinson. This guy's policies have been ultimately designed to help the Islamic world take over our Western culture allies and break them down. Now, what would be the purpose of doing that? Well, if there was ever a dark and sinister plot in the world, it is definitely coming out of the New World Order. The New World Order, which has been prophesized by people like George H.W. Bush in his 1992 inaugural address, he talked about a New World Order. 1,000 points of light. No quid pro quo. We've heard it from Henry Kissinger as recently as last year. He even talks about how Barack Obama will help the New World Order. I mean, Henry Kissinger is the biggest protagonist of a New World Order that anybody's ever been. I mean, this guy lives and breathes the New World Order. But we've got bigger problems, and the problems are really buried in what I believe a general disregard for the truth. Now, there have been many, many mysterious deaths as a result of people talking about the 9/11 attack. Anybody who raises questions about the 9/11 Commission reporting have died. There have been about 12 people that have died from simply talking about this stuff. Barack Obama put one woman on a plane who happened to be an activist who lost her husband in the World Trade Center. But let me show you this. Okay, that right there is very telling. The man who died, who was in charge of emergency operations at the World Trade Center, actually said he was stepping over bodies at Building 7, contradicting the official government claim that no one died in Building 7. So you can imagine why they'd want to get rid of this guy. He clearly was standing in the way of the New World Order. Now, they put together a plan to essentially create justification for more war. Iraq and Afghanistan is attributed to the anger Americans felt toward the terrorist attack on our trade centers. The fact that there is obvious information out there that suggests that a demolition occurred, that these 3 buildings just didn't happenly fall down because planes hit them. Architects, 1,000 architects have gone on camera talking about this. In fact, we played the video last night on our Conspiracy Monday show. We showed you how 1,000 architects have said that there's no way these buildings could have possibly come down from being hit by planes. And these are the experts in their field, the top-notch architects around the world talking about it. If there was a demolition, if the Pentagon was hit with a missile, not a plane, then there's got to be more to the story. So why would this country just close the case on the World Trade Center attack and put it away? I couldn't take this conversation and open it up in an open dialogue with Bill O'Reilly. He'd kick me off his show. I couldn't talk to most of the people in the news about this because they would call me a truther, or they'd call me a birther. They've got all these names to call people things whenever they can't disagree with you on a logical basis. So when I come out talking about these things, I'm not trying to scare you, and I'm not trying to make you think I'm a whack job. I'm not trying to make you think that conspiracies are coming in from all sides and the sky is falling. I'm trying to make you aware of the possibility that the government is lying to you, and that a lot of the actions going on in our country right now are in many ways false flag operations designed to trigger social unrest or civil unrest or agreeing with a war in Syria. Now, our country needs a war in Syria like a hole in the head. We don't need any more wars. We need to focus on jobs. We need to solve America's problems. We can't just go out of our way to create wars left and right. So clearly the directive is coming from people who are on the inside of the New World Order, and clearly we're dealing with people like Henry Kissinger and like the people that have created this incredible plan to perhaps dominate the world and ultimately get rid of 90% of the human population. Let's take a look at this picture. I think I need to show you. It's pretty interesting. Let's see it, if I can grab it. This is a crash test of a plane going into a solid wall, much like constructed at the World Trade Center. Let me show you this. This is actually something that's very compelling. Take a look.
Themselves. Time for a new test using an F-4 Phantom jet. The US government wanted to test what would happen if a plane crashed into the concrete walls of a nuclear power station. The jet sets off, bolted to a track to prevent takeoff. It's doing 500 miles an hour. The plane atomized with the impact. It just disappeared into dust. Only the tips of the wings escaped total destruction. But the wall designed to move and absorb energy did its job well. When dealing with nuclear material, no test can ever be too just.
Oh, that's very telling, don't you think? The whole idea of a plane crashing into that concrete wall, much like the walls of the World Trade Center, taking on all that weight from the planes. Yes, the planes penetrated, but they didn't take the buildings down. Clearly, there was something more to it. So obviously, we have to get to the bottom of that. So I'm going to recommend that we have an investigation, a scientific investigation into the facts behind the 9/11 Commission report. I'm going to take chat now and talk to you guys in chat. David, thank you. Trade Center is glass, brah. Whatever. There is a concrete wall outside the Pentagon that supposedly was taken down by what they claimed was a plane, 737. There's evidence that that Pentagon was hit by a missile. And that's why the FBI will not reveal all 83 camera angles of that missile hitting the Pentagon. Now, I'm trying to give you guys some food for thought here. I want you to realize that the area of the Pentagon that was taken out was the Office of Naval Intelligence. 127 people were working on revealing information about a money transfer that was about to go down at the Security Exchange Commission. During the 9/11 attack, the SEC took 2 days in advance of the 9/11 attack, the SEC opened up emergency headquarters outside of the Trade Center. They did not have any operations going on at the Trade Center, so they knew in advance that something was going to happen. What happened was George H.W. Bush had an outstanding bond issue that he took out in 1991 that was coming due this September 11th, 2001. The bond issue is for $240 billion. No one ever actually dealt with that bond issue. The Office of Naval Intelligence was researching this. Those 127 people were researching this when they were taken out by what appears to be a missile at the Pentagon. That's why the FBI will not reveal 83 camera angles. That's why you can't get any reveal on what exactly happened. All we see is a little blip. That's all we ever see when we look at the 9/11 sources. Obviously, these questions are going to continually persist, and we're not going to get to any real solutions unless we have a scientific third-party review of the 9/11 Commission report. The white streak, they call it, the white streak that hit the building. Let me take a look at that video right now. Take a look at this footage. This was all that we were given. These 15 frames, that's all the FBI would reveal. What are they hiding? This looks like a missile. It doesn't look like the front of a plane, not a 737. So clearly they want to kill 2 birds or 3 birds with 1 stone. So they managed to get rid of this group of people, the Office of Naval Intelligence, that were researching the bond issue that was coming due the day of September 11th. All right, so then we've got other issues, like the day before, Donald Rumsfeld told the American people in a video on screen that the Pentagon was missing $2.3 trillion. Donald Rumsfeld, here he is right now. I'll give you a reveal on that.
Pentagon, the day before 9/11, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld declared war, not on foreign terrorists.
The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
He said money wasted by the military poses a serious threat.
In fact, it could be said that it's a matter of life and death.
Rumsfeld promised change, but the next day, the world changed. And in the rush to fund the war on terrorism, the war on waste seems to have been forgotten.
My 03 budget.
There you have it, folks. I gave this to you in a nutshell, really quick. The Pentagon was missing $2.3 trillion. The Office of Naval Intelligence was doing research on a bond issue that George H.W. Bush took out in 1991 that was coming due. The SEC was operating in emergency headquarters 2 days in advance of the World Trade Center attack. The FBI will not reveal all photographs of what hit the Pentagon. They ended up doing this to trigger a cover-up false flag operation, which led to 2 wars, which further covered up the entire money laundering thing that went down when 9/11 occurred. The forensic analysis that was done on hard drives that were in the buildings shows, without any doubt, that huge amounts of money were thrown through there and lots of money was being exchanged during the takedown of the Trade Center. So what happened was, when all this occurred, all that money gets flushed away and nobody asks any questions. Then a guy comes along, decides to run for president in 2016, who captures the people's concern for what really happened in 2001 and activates the mind of the American people and begins the process of awareness so that we can begin the process of repairing this nation. We can't repair this nation if we're blithering idiots, if we're zombies walking around with no sense of where we're at or what we've done. Folks, we've got the Vietnam War to answer for. We've got the Iraq and Afghanistan War to answer for. And now this 2-party duopoly system controlled by powerful elitists is trying to hijack the American consciousness into believing we've got a terror threat and Bashar al-Assad is the bad guy. Well, just last week, I was following Donald Trump's tweets, and he tweeted this information about 31 CIA agents being on the ground when Ambassador Chris Stevens died in Benghazi, Libya. Apparently, Donald Trump got information from third-party people that said that the CIA, some people were talking about this. Well, the CIA is putting a lockdown on any information. That story died 2 weeks ago. It is pretty much dead in the water, and here we are, August 27th, 2013, and no mention of those 31 agents on the ground in Benghazi. What happened right after this reveal by the Donald Trump tweet? The NSA went into hypergear, the CIA went into hypergear, and they started running stories. NSA ran a story about Area 51, which was a joke. Everyone knows Area 51 exists, but they acted like it was some reveal. That was designed to cover up the story about the CIA on the ground in Benghazi. Another story popped up. 19 embassies were closed because of some renewed terror threat, and then 2 days later they were reopened. That was also an effort to scatter the media and make sure that nobody looked into this situation with 31 CIA agents on the ground in Benghazi when Chris Stevens died. Do you realize what we're talking about here? We're talking about false flag operation after false flag operation, leading to cover-up after cover-up, leading to a foreign policy which is more of a CIA-run joke, or it's a parade, it's a circus, led by a ringmaster like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski. I mean, our country is turning into a mockery of itself, and if we don't stand up to this with a third party and tell these morons and zombies and mental midgets that we aware Americans are going to stop this and get honesty back into government, then we basically might as well just wrap it all up and live like worms underground, waiting for our little morsels from our overseers, because we will be like worms. The plan is in place to take down this country. And I don't want that. I want this nation to stand up and be proud and build industry. And I want our country to be the leader again in environmental technologies. I want our country to be the greatest nation on earth. But we can only do that by being less of a military monster around the world. We can only do that by showing our neighbors and friends and allies that we will show and lead by example, not by oppression and by military might. Our military budget is larger than all the nations of the world combined. That's what's happened. And they put Barack Obama in power. They did it because he's a good puppet and he likes money. He and Michelle live off lavish amounts of money. They spend it like it's going out of style. It's your money. Their vacations are paid for by your tax dollars. And man, they're living high on the hog, and they could care less about you, the American people. Now, even though if you voted for Barack Obama in 2008 or 2012, I'm not here to hold grudges. I'm here to awaken you to the possibility that a real American is ready to lead this nation out of the hellhole we're currently in. And we're not going to get it from some teleprompter reading puppet. We need a person who understands the problem and who can direct action at that problem. Now, I must tell you that at the very center of this incredible problem is the Fed. The Fed has got to go. We've got to end the Fed. It is a central bank that is wasting money left and right and giving it to money mongers and whoremongers of money like the Wall Street executives. The big banks, they keep getting this money. We don't get a penny. They keep getting money. They don't want to create jobs. Do you see the problem here? They're getting the money, they're sitting on it, it's weakening your dollar at the store, so you have to pay more for every single product you buy, and they're getting richer and richer because they're more fearful that the end of the entire economy is coming. So they're hoarding it. They're creating liquidity traps. So that money isn't going anywhere, it's not going in any good use. So clearly the Fed is standing in the way of progress for this country. So one of the things I want to do is end the Fed, retire their charter, and within the Federal Reserve Act, we have the ability to do that. We just need Congress to agree. We want to implement tax reform by 2018, if possible, and that's going to require a fair or a flat tax that will not tax the American people who make less than $100,000 a year. It will give them a free ride, so to speak, to get ahead, but we'll still derive a sales tax of 10% from a fair tax so that we can generate money from all non-food items. If you buy a yacht, you pay 10% goes to the government. You buy a non-food item like some Kleenex, it goes to the government, 10%. This is a plan that will actually reduce the power of lobbyists in our country because it gets rid of all the tax credits and tax deductions. That's another big part of a third-party plan to reform the tax code. And I don't believe that the tax code is even enforceable, really. I mean, the 16th Amendment clearly contradicts taxing wages and compensation. We shouldn't have to all pay into the tax system. If you don't work, you definitely shouldn't pay taxes. And I think most important, we need to end war and get our country back to some solvent solutions to building products that make people cleaner air, cleaner water, that will be saleable around the world. These are the things that will really help get our country back economically and create jobs. Now, we've got a lot of ideas at americasthirdparty.com, and I must tell you, our best idea, I think, at this point is our infrastructure bank. We want a nationally governed infrastructure bank that will offer 2% loans to U.S. businesses hiring U.S. employees. It'll eliminate the power of immigrants who are taking over our economy, and it'll begin restructuring our country so we can build from there. You can eat Kleenex. Yes, good point. All right, so that's it in a nutshell. I appreciate you watching, and I will be back tomorrow night from 6 to 9 to talk about issues that are usually social issues. Wednesday is our open topic night, so we talk about social issues like abortion, capital punishment, same-sex marriage. All those are discussed in our show. But we want to maintain total transparency with you, and I must tell you, I will read your chat, but right now we're doing a recorded message, and I'll stay on longer to talk to you, all of you. But thank you very much. Thanks for watching.